Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video and myself, Jonathan MSP. This is a US election special regarding the hurricane actually that's just ripped through some parts of the US, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida being some of the major hotspots. I wanted to speak about A, disinformation and misinformation, B, politicizing something in a way that I find quite problematic, and just giving people a sense of actually what's really been taking place. Now, you've had this hurricane, and the reality is that Joe Biden and his administration put in place a response to the hurricane that predated the hurricane. So what happened is they obviously had some prediction of what was going to happen. It was a huge hurricane. It caused devastation to some of these states. And so he activated FEMA, got funding in place, sort of before it happened, said, right, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You've got the resources you need. So actually, rather than not doing things and being on holiday or whatever was accused of Joe Biden, he put things in place so that there was the required resources and funding to deal with the natural disaster. Indeed, the claim that Joe Biden was on the beach when this was happening was using of an old photo, etc., etc. He was in his Delaware home, but there's no indication that he was lounging on a beach. So all sorts of misinformation, disinformation has been flying about. But what is certainly true to me is that this was used as a campaign event, if you like, and a PR opportunity for Donald Trump. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had, because this had been requested of them, and this is now generally thought to be the better way of doing things, weren't immediately going to visit the devastated areas. And the reason is because with all of your entourage and the required protection that you need, it's just a massive logistical nightmare in such a zone as this, a disaster zone, for you to be visiting as president or vice president. You are going to get in the way of people actually trying to do their jobs of delivering aid. The accusation was, Biden's still just sitting on a phone. It's exactly what he needs to be doing. So as a leader of the country, you need to be coordinating with all the agencies to make sure that things are happening. You are phoning up people and saying, that needs to happen, get on it now. Like, what's the freaking point of going to the disaster zone as a president to hand out some bottles of water, right? That is a PR stunt. That is not the best use of the president's time, spending all that time journeying down there, getting in the way of the actual aid, and then handing out aid. You don't expect the CEO of a company, of some big retail organization, to be working on the till for an hour unless it's done for a PR reason. So the only reason he would be there is for PR. If he had been there, the same people accusing Biden of not being there would have accused him of being in the way making a PR stunt out of a disaster zone. So there's either whatever Biden had done, he would have been criticised by the opposition, and I just find it really opportunistic and quite distasteful. Meanwhile, Trump went to Georgia and was met by crowds and crowds of people. I mean, I presume these are people that would have been accusing Biden of not helping. Meanwhile, they're not helping. They're standing around with placards and cheering and whatnot. So this is just a big campaign event, as opposed to being a real kind of USA. Rather than being anything sort of meaningfully helpful for those victims. Now, he has done, I think, is he given some money? He's certainly raised a GoFundMe, which, is not his money, that's other people's money. Well, do you know what? The government has FEMA and other agencies that give tangible help, and not decrying that's great, but let's get things into perspective. Okay, so Trump then goes down and he makes bricks into some kind of podium and speaks as if he's a president. I mean, I find this distasteful. Lincoln Project says Trump speaks at a podium built out of bricks from a destroyed furniture store in Valdosta in Georgia. This is all Trump knows, using the tragedy of others to prop himself up. And yet people were seeing this and thinking, yeah, this is brilliant. This is what Biden should be doing. No, Biden's coordinating stuff and making sure things happen. Now, an example or a reflection of this is this Associated Press article. Trump makes false claims about federal response as he campaigns in an area ravaged by Hurricane Helene. So the former president and Republican nominee claimed upon landing in Valdosta that President Joe Biden was sleeping and not responding to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who said he was calling the president, hasn't been able to get him. He repeated the claim at the event with the reporters after being told Kemp said he had spoken to Biden. So therefore, he was lying off the bat. He had apparently been told that that's not the truth. So he just comes out and overtly lies. This is what he says.
In Georgia and North Carolina.
Let me just get that in proper size for you and give it a bit of volume boost.
In Georgia and North Carolina, which has really been hit. We were going there also, and they don't have communication. They don't have anything right now. We're trying to. I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. We're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication.
As someone points out, Elon isn't donating Starlink. FEMA paid for it. Elon isn't giving free access to Starlink. The government is paying for it. F Trump and Elon. Donald Trump attempts to take credit for 40 Starlink satellite systems provided by FEMA. But no, going back to his claim about Brian Kemp, this is what it is.
Take it from Donald Trump himself.
We do need some help from the federal government. They have to get together, ideally with the governor. The governor needs to, he's been trying to get them, and I'm sure they're going to come through. But he's been calling the president, hasn't been able to get him.
And of course, while Donald Trump claims that the Democrats have been MIA, here's the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, speaking himself on the issue.
In other words, Trump has just said, apparently after being told that they have been in touch, has come out and said, he's been trying to get hold of Biden, he's been unable to do so. And that is just not true.
So I just spoke, the president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right.
So the day before, the president had called Brian Kemp, and then Kemp sort of replied by phone the day after he had missed that call.
Back, and he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's another thing.
So Biden says, what do you need? And Kemp says, we've got everything we need. So if there's any claim that Georgia, for example, doesn't have what they have what they need because it was put in place previously, ahead of the game. He gets what he needs. The president phones him. He phones the president back, and the president offers anything else. And he says, no, we're all right. We've got everything. We'll see how it goes.
Things we need just to call him directly, which I appreciate.
And here's North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper echoing that sentiment.
The emotional and physical toll here is indescribable. I will be talking with people this morning. I'm going to head to one of the hospitals, to a mass feeding site, to get one-on-one from people what's happening to them right now. I will be taking with me FEMA Director Criswell, who will be with us. We plan to Starlink and talk with President Biden while we are there. I talked with both President Biden and Vice President Harris last night. They pledged their full support. This is
the night before, full support pledged by both President and Vice President. And of course, was it $18.8 billion of FEMA funding and funding for this?
It's going to be a tremendous effort in the short run, but looking at it in the long run, with the hundreds of roads that are destroyed, communities that were wiped off the map. We have to make sure that we get in there, are smart about rebuilding, doing it in a more resilient way. But right now we're concentrating on saving lives and getting supplies to people who desperately, desperately need them.
And so
and I think that's really important. You got Donald Trump Jr., right? So the nominee's son saying maybe if North Carolina identified as Ukraine, some of its incredible people would actually get some attention, resources, and much needed funding for themselves in their time of need. So we have the North Carolina governor and the Georgia governor saying that they've got everything they need. So you got Donald Trump Jr. here saying maybe we've got some. They've got the funding. You have to wait for waters to subside to do a certain amount of the work that I'm sure, are calling for. And we'll get to that in a second. As someone quite rightly says, shut the F up. I remember when your father, Donald Trump Sr., when he was in charge as president, I remember when your father provided less than 1% of the requested aid to eastern North Carolina after Hurricane Matthew. Stop with the BS, Trump Jr. Okay, and and someone else here saying, I'm voting for the guy who created a GoFundMe for hurricane victims, not a woman who posted a GoFundMe for Antifa rioters. Okay, so this idea that, well done, Trump, you started up a GoFundMe. Not that he would have done that, one of his team would have done that, but you get the point. Right, Governor Roy Cooper, who we just heard from, said, we requested, this is back in 2017, we requested $900 million for Hurricane Matthew recovery, but we received just 6.1 million, less than 1% of the resources we need. So don't go around, Donald Trump Jr., talking about how Donald Trump is some panacea and that the present government are not doing enough when the governors said they have done enough. And Donald Trump himself has a record that is absolutely rubbish concerning hurricane relief. And, it gets really annoying. So Sarah Rose, whoever she is, says Trump took questions as soon as he landed in Georgia. Yeah, because he ain't running things, and this is just a big PR stunt, so of course he's taking questions. Kamala walks right past reporters. Like, we don't know the context of this. It's a C-SPAN. Kamala walks right past reporters, not taking questions like the coward she is. Pathetic. No, she's getting on and doing the job that she needs to do. So there you go. In fact, going to wherever she's trying to get to as quickly as possible. So there's so much spinning of what's going on here. Here's someone who is, I think, an avowed sort of Trump supporter, trying to pull the emotional heartstrings. Now, I'm not denigrating the position his mum's in, but my mum hasn't had power in days. She lives in the Carolinas and has a heart condition. I wish all those taxes I paid for the past couple of years went there and not to other countries. This whole kind of, the Ukraine war is sucking away money from hurricane support, which is just a load of absolute nonsense. And someone quite robustly replies, hey, idiot, literally nothing would have helped here. Most of the areas are still underwater. There's no amount of money or resources that can fix that. There are thousands of linemen that have been waiting for the all clear to go to the areas to start restoring power. There are thousands of aid workers that have been waiting for the all clear to go to the area and start helping those in need. As with any disaster, you can't just send a bunch of people and resources immediately, as it's almost certainly going to hinder rescue efforts or cause more damage, injuries and death. You know this though. You pretend like you don't because you're a POS with no actual principles. I mean, this is someone with some priors here. You just wanted to use your mother as a political toy to score some political points and clicks on the internet. I hope your audience starts to see you as a disgusting, reprehensible loser you are. So obviously there's priors here, but this is a kind of response that we see is people politicizing an event that just requires the government to get on and do what they have the resources and the wherewithal to do, and allow them to do that, and not start trying to overly politicize this. But that's exactly what has happened, and it just annoys the hell out of me. As David Frum rightly says here, Meredith McGraw says, the Trump campaign launched a GoFundMe for Hurricane Helene victims. GoFundMe means someone posting it. And David Frum, former Republican himself, says, in 2019, Donald Trump was fined $2 million and 3 of his children ordered to take training classes as their penalty for misappropriating funds from charities they ran for their own use. Ouch. So, yeah, the Trump Foundation was it. Fined, them and charities don't go starting to say how wonderful Trump is for like GoFundMes and charities. He has a very, very bad history with charities, with running charities. This is someone on TikTok saying pretty much spot on things here.
Back when Hurricane Florence hit in North Carolina, Donald Trump sat on his fucking ass for 2 months. He let the government shut down. 41 people died, and Roy Cooper had to get on his fucking knees and beg him for 2 fucking months for help. All right, you want to know where my president's at now? All right, he's already declared North Carolina a federal disaster. All right, which speeds FEMA up. All right, we got 3 federal teams here already in the first place. We got 50 search teams, 19 states sending helicopters and fucking supplies and manpower. You want to know where the fuck my president is? He's here. All right? The only thing I wanted to know was where the fuck my president was at.
Ouch. Like, my president's here. And by him being here, like, he has enacted all of this, which is here. Like, he may be on the phone back wherever, but he's here. What I want to know is where my president was the last time this kind of happened. Where was he when we had to wait 2 months for funding because you didn't want to fund it? It blows my mind that people are sucked in. And of course, back in that time, Trump rolled back Obama-era flood standards for infrastructure projects. You know, let's understand what's going on here. Today is a good day to remember that Project 2025 wants to do away with the National Hurricane Center. Well worth remembering this. They want to privatise all of these agencies. So, Lincoln Project says, while you're watching this, remember that Trump's Project 2025 would eliminate FEMA. So there's your disaster relief. Eliminate the National Weather Service. Privatise that. Eliminate federal-backed flood insurance. Eliminate emergency disaster funding for state and local governments. So if you want to politicise this, let's talk about actually how aid gets to where it needs to get to and what the Trump administration would have in its place, because if Project 2025 is to be taken seriously, because of what the Trump administration, if they get into power in January, would have take place, what they would replace these structures with. I mean, it's so worth, that's the kind of politicization that needs to happen.
I just watched Trump in real time on TV.
This is a North Carolinian.
Which he's really good at, but he's lying about the storms. I have family members and friends that have been affected in different states. And the news media allowed it to happen, and they played it. He said that Biden wasn't doing anything. And Biden's doing exactly what the president's supposed to do by initiating things before the storm even arrived, and also to not go to the areas right away and interfere with the emergency responses that are happening. So the former president lied, saying that there were all these things that he was going to do, and he can't. He's not the president. He also acted like the president. People treated him like he was the president, and there's nothing he can do. He talked about getting Starlink set up, and I do know for a fact that satellites have already been opened up. People can already access Starlink. That's how I'm able to get in touch with my sister as much as I am able to via text. I just find it unconscionable what the news media allows him to say, the lies he spews. The other thing that was really interesting was the fact that he has no idea what the damage is like, because he kept turning to other people and saying, it's bad, isn't it? He has zero empathy. He cannot take a look at a situation and realize how bad it is, because nothing has ever been bad for him until now, when he's getting caught for all the crimes that he's doing. I also find it unconscionable that Franklin Graham was there to pray. Not that he was there praying. I think praying is great. But Billy Graham, his grandfather, I don't remember, is from the Asheville area. It's all political. It was an opportunity for Trump to grift yet again. Trump is evil. I don't understand how anyone can.
And so she goes on. She's obviously not happy, affected by the flood herself or people she knows. And yeah, but pointing out, I mean, the rest of the 6 minutes there, the four extra minutes, similar stuff. Really not happy, and pointing out some really salient points there. Now, Jessica Tarlov is dealing with this kind of rhetoric that we've seen on Fox News, similar to what you see Donald Trump Jr. saying, etc., falling over Trump and criticizing Biden and Harris. Jessica Tarlov is a single, evidence-based liberal on Fox News, and on their highest, I think, rated show, is it the 5, where she is against 4 other people who just gang up on her, and she has them every single day. It's always a glory to see.
I'm here for it, and so are you.
Dramatically differently from how my colleagues see it. So just a couple notes. Trump closes strong in Georgia. He lost Georgia. So I guess if someone had found him 11,237 votes, it would have gone better, but he's a loser there.
I meant like
Starlink.
Campaign activity.
Oh, he shows up a lot and people see him and then they vote against him. Starlink, there are 40 satellites that are already going. In Maui, by the way, the $700 was the FEMA limit. So Donald Trump and his supporters are running the same old tired playbook that they did with Maui and they did with East Palestine. So not only was Joe Biden on top of this, he signed the disaster declarations even before the storms hit to make sure that there would be no delay in goods and services. Donald Trump's social media posts contain blatant lies, like Governor Kemp can't reach the president. Governor Kemp gave a press conference yesterday where he said, I just spoke to the president. He has promised me every single thing that I need. McMaster from South Carolina, also a conservative, getting everything that he wants, and then Roy Cooper as well. And there's only one president that we are talking about who actually has denied relief for one of these states. In 2017, Roy Cooper asked after Hurricane Matthew for a lot of money, and he got 1% of his ask. They denied 99% of what he was asking for after that hurricane came. There are 3,300 FEMA personnel there, 5,500 National Guardsmen from 11 states, and search and rescue from 19 states. That doesn't reduce the devastation of this and how horrific it is, but to say that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are out to lunch during this, or they're sitting on a beach reclining there, they are clearly giving them what they need. They will be showing up when it is appropriate. And it's different for Donald Trump, who is not in office. He's just a guy trying to be president again, to show up and throw some bounty at people, versus someone who's actually the commander in chief and doesn't want to distract from what's going on. And as Dana said, Governor Cooper said, I will let you know when it is appropriate for you to come. And same goes for Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, all of it.
Tennessee.
Bang. That is an absolute mic drop moment. Drop that mic, as far as I'm concerned, for Jessica Tarlov. Absolutely put the rest of the panel in their place. And that's exactly what I've just been saying, which is, like, there's a truth to what's happened, and there's the spin from the Trump campaign. And the spin from the Trump campaign and all those surrogates and acolytes is, I think, despicable. And it is just not becoming of a situation that requires a really serious response with an awful lot of empathy as well. Just, that's my tuppence. I didn't want to include all of this in my next sort of US news update, and I didn't want it to get too, past the point of this being relevant anymore. But I did have enough to say on this, because I feel quite strongly that it was really, really, misused, this whole terrible sort of natural disaster for the benefit, or it was attempted to be used for the benefit of the Trump campaign. And I just, it doesn't sit well with me. Anyway, as ever, I'm probably going to annoy people by saying that, but hey, those are my opinions, and I stand by them, and I think they're justified. So take care, guys. Speak to you soon.